Hey guys, and welcome to another Let's Max Warframe episode, where today we're going to be plundering some booty and take a look at something that could have come from Davy Jones's locker, the Zarr cannon. Now the Zarr, like the Twin Rugger, is another market-based weapon, requires not only 1600 Kuva or 3 extractors worth to build, also needs a fully built Dragoon with that build requirements as well. But what do you get out of it once you've used those? We get a weapon that does 25 impact damage with a direct hit, and 175 blast damage when the projectile explodes. It's actually the weakest of the explosive weapon category. However, after that initial explosion, 6 little cluster bomblets come out from the point of explosion. Each of those do 50 blast damage and mirror the rest of the stats of the weapon. So you add into that a 15% critical chance, 250% multiplier. Doesn't really sound like a crit build is viable, does it? However, as we're going to look a little bit later, that's a bit misleading. Plus, if you take into account a 20% status chance, status builds are definitely viable, and with its main explosion prop being blast, it can be something that can provide some good crowd control before you even start putting on your own elemental combos. In terms of the reload, it comes with the same style reload as the Stun Wraith, reloading one shot at a time, but like the Stun Wraith, you can interrupt the reload and fire provided you've got at least one shell loaded when you try to fire. It does have one very notable downside, which is the fact that the initial explosion will self-damage you, so if you fire too close to yourself, you're probably going to kill yourself. And in fact, the Zarr does so much damage that you can actually manage to straight up kill yourself with no chance at a revive, even in matches with other players, so do beware of that. But at least the little cluster bomblets don't damage you anymore. But never fear, a cool mechanic is here to save the day. With the minnow button, you can switch the weapon between the cannon and barrage mode. Cannon mode is the one where you fire the explosive shell, doing the damage we just talked about. Barrage mode, however, is the equivalent to switching to grape shot rounds on a naval ship. It effectively becomes a giant shotgun, firing out 6 pellets in a pretty wide spread. It's got no fall off whatsoever. However, the pellets do have a maximum range of 15 meters and do a third of the damage of the main shot. This ability to switch from long range bombardment with the ability to kill yourself to short range shotgun is amazing. Really allows it to work in situations where traditional launchers wouldn't. Well, apart from the Tonko, but the less said about that the better. In fact, no, we'll talk about that later. With that in mind, how do I go about building the weapon? I have 2 main builds with standard mods, and I do have a build with a Riven mod. The weapon itself, I added 4 former, we've got 4 Vs and a dash on the weapon in total. The first build is focused around a status build. It's a very traditional one. We've got Serration, Split Chamber, Heavy Caliber on here. As far as I could tell, it didn't really affect it too badly, not even the shotgun mode. We have Prime Fast Hands on here because it really makes a huge difference when dealing with that reload. Then we had 3 dual stats of your choosing. I've got Viral and Heat on here personally, but you can do almost anything. Corrosive and Heat's a pretty damn good one too. Plus we've got a Prime Bane mod on here to improve faction damage. You can always put a 4th elemental on if you want to fight against corrupted enemies. But this is a very solid build and will do really well in either the explosive mode or the shotgun mode. Second build, that's the crit build that I talked about earlier. A lot of the mods are from the same, the same from the build before. We've got Serration, Split Chamber, Heavy Caliber, Prime Fast Hands and 2 dual stat mods. They're all the same. However, this time we've got Point Strike and Vital Sense on here to boost the crit chance up to 37% and a 550% damage multiplier. Now the reason this works better than you would expect is because of the mechanics of the weapon. The explosions hit multiple enemies, and while the initial explosion has that initial crit or don't crit, each bomblet seems to have its own crit chance, so you're going to crit way more than that 37% suggests. Definitely makes this a viable build. The third build I wanted to show is exactly the same as the standard crit build, however I replace Heavy Caliber with the Riven mod that I've got. Zarr Critter Hexatio, plus 63% status chance, plus 61.5% electricity, and plus 113.5% crit chance. Now I know it's unlikely you're going to be able to replicate these stats exactly, however plus crit chance on this thing is insane. The footage you see in the background now is me stun locking and shredding a bunch of level 145 heavy gunners. We've got that just under 80% status chance and a 55% critical chance with this build. Holy crap, it's amazing. And it kicks the crap out of another weapon I'm going to talk about a little bit later. Everybody's favourite whipping boy, the Tonko. So do I like the Zarr and do I think it's worth putting the former on? The answer is yes, I do. Do it now. This thing is incredible. Even if you ignore the performance of the weapon. You have a weapon that looks like they ripped it straight off the HMS Victory and gave it a sound that when it fires it could fit straight into the 1812 Overture without any problem whatsoever. And then you have the way it feels. It feels powerful, like you're actually firing a broadside from a ship, or you're just inserting the barrel of the cannon with the shotgun, loaded, blowing them away. I am hugely impressed with this weapon, and I'm surprised actually that it got a buff. I don't do this very often, since it's often used as a whipping boy of just about everything. How does this compare to the Tonkor? Well, it blows the Tonkor out of the water with ease. As I said when I compared the 3 top bullet hose weapons, the combination of crit and status will win the day. And that is absolutely the case here, because of the insane status chance of the Zarr. It keeps enemies pretty much stun locked. You keep them knocked down until the end of time, allowing for more consistent damage application to the targets. Plus, if you run corrosive, you're pinning them down, stripping their armor, and doing more and more damage each shot. I did a whole bunch of testing in the simulacrum, and with equal builds, no Riven mod that I showed earlier, on average the Tonkor was about 50 seconds slower at clearing the 8 level 145 arid heavy gunners than the Zarr was. And that filters down also obviously to lower levels as well. Being able to hold them in place plus shoot at the floor directly that the Tonkor cannot do means that the Zarr actually outperforms the Tonkor pretty reliably. However, am I going to say stop using the Tonkor because the Zarr is better? No, they both had different feels, different purposes, and the Tonkor is more than strong enough to deal with the content we have in the game without the blowing yourself up every 5 seconds thing. But what does this actually mean to the Zarr? Well, it means it's a bloody good weapon. It's strong, really strong, however at a cost. The fact that you can blow yourself up with it. This amount of power does need to come with drawbacks, and the fact that if you stand even slightly too close to the explosion, that's it for you. But the fact that you can switch to the shotgun mode for close quarters is incredible. It gives this weapon some crazy strong utility. In fact, even though the cannon mode is pretty much amazing, the barrage mode is where I find it to be the most fun. The way the bodies launch themselves after they die, the way they sound. This has gone into my top 5 favourite primaries now for sure, without question. It's an incredible addition to the game, something I am glad to see. Power, but with a significant downside. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the weapon. Do you like it? Would you even use it? There are some changes to the Riven system coming in a few days, so I would hold off re-rolling any mods for now, and I've linked the Dev Workshop post in the description below, and I actually remembered to do it this time, since I do have a habit of forgetting to put the links. As always though, smash that like button and to sub if you like my content, and I shall see you in the next video.